Hi guys, I am here with my gynecologist, Dr. Lana Solitsky, and I thought it would be really fun today if we did a Q&A of like the top 5 most frequently asked questions that my gynecologist gets. So let's ask her. What's like number one question you get asked all the time?
Does being on birth control cause cancer for me? Or any other bad things from being on birth control pills for years?
People think birth control causes cancer?
Yes.
Okay, so what do you tell them?
So it's totally a myth. Actually, being on birth control pills for at least 5 years decreases your risk of ovarian cancer by 50%. And there's a lot of benefits of being on birth control, such as lighter periods, less painful periods, predictability. So it's not a bad thing to be on birth control.
I have a question. For acne, is it better to be on an IUD or the birth control pills?
Birth control pills are much better for acne because it has 2 hormones, estrogen and progesterone, that helps you with the acne. Where the IUD either has one hormone called progesterone that sometimes can give you a little bit more acne right here, or another IUD has no hormones at all, so it would not improve your acne at all.
Okay, here's a question that I know we get asked all the time on TikTok when we do videos. Do you need a pap smear every year?
So pap smear is a screening test. We start doing pap smears at age 21. And we do pap smears per guidelines every 3 to 5 years up to age 30. That's considering the fact that your pap smears are normal. Obviously, if you have any abnormalities on your pap smears, then you need to come yearly for your pap smears. You still need to come yearly to see a gynecologist just to do a breast check, pelvic exam, and other things. And then starting at age 30, we do pap smears, again, every 3 to 5 years, except starting at age 30, we specifically check you for HPV, which is human papillomavirus that causes cervical cancer. And again, if something is not normal, then we do pap smears more frequently. But if everything is fine and you have no history of abnormal pap smears, you don't need a pap smear every year.
If you're getting a pap smear and then the results come back that it's abnormal, what does that mean, and should we worry?
Yes, that's a great question. So it all depends at what age group you are. If you're younger than 24, there's a very high possibility that your pap smear might be abnormal just because you have a lot of sexual partners and you're exposed to a lot of different, HPVs, abnormalities. So if you do pap smear and up to age 24 it comes back abnormal, we monitor closely, you don't have to worry at all. After age 24, if you have a pap smear that shows HPV, which is human papillomavirus, common, super common, 80% of people have it, it depends on how abnormal your pap smear is. If you just have HPV by itself and the pap smear is normal, we ask you to come back in a year. If the pap smear is a little bit abnormal and it is affected by HPV, you have to come back for this procedure. It's called colposcopy, spelled with a C. And all we do is we take a look at your cervix more closely. We put a special solution, look under the microscope, and take 2 small biopsies. It takes about 5 minutes. It's not a painful procedure. And the biopsy just tells us more precisely and more closely how abnormal your cells are in your cervix and if the HPV is really acting up. About 90 to 95%, everything comes back normal in your biopsy and you come back in a year for your routine pap smear screening. But if something is super, super abnormal, then there's another procedure that can be done in the office that removes all the super abnormal cells so they don't develop into cancer.
Tell us about IUDs, the difference between them. Tell us everything about IUDs.
Okay, so there's 2 major types of IUDs. One is non-hormonal. There's only one of them on the market. It's called Paragard. It's made out of copper. It's good for 10 years. It gives you regular periods the way you normally get your periods. The only downside of that IUD is that you have more painful periods and heavier periods. Remember, all the IUDs are covered by insurances these days.
Well, so why would somebody want a copper one then? Just because it doesn't have the hormones?
Yes, so if somebody has medical contraindications to any hormones, or if they've tried birth control pills or different hormones and they feel like they have a lot of side effects, patients would prefer non-hormonal IUD. The other IUD that is definitely more popular in the market is called progesterone-only IUD, and there's 3 types of those IUDs. There's one called Skyla that's good for 3 years. There's one called Kylena, good for 5, and there's one called Mirena, which probably everybody has heard of. It's good for 8 years. It just got extended for 8 years. The beauty of progesterone-only IUD is it gives you lighter and shorter periods, and it's actually indicated for women that have heavy menstrual periods. All IUDs are 99.9% effective against preventing pregnancy. So out of the progesterone IUDs, I personally prefer Mirena because it's good for 8 years. So if you're a young girl coming in for an IUD insertion, remember the procedure is not the most pleasant one. It is a little bit painful, to be honest, but it does take about 2 minutes just to put it in. So if you're in your 20s and even if you're in your 30s, I prefer the longer lasting IUD so you don't have to take it out and insert it again every 3 to 5 years. As long as you have the IUD for 8 years, you can decide at any time that if you're not interested in keeping it, or if you want to have a baby, if you're not happy, you could take it out in 8 years versus replacing it every 3 years. And all the side effects of the IUDs are pretty much the same. Sometimes you can get facial acne right here, very rare. And with Mirena IUD, 50% of patients stop having their periods, or if they do have their periods, they're very light and short.
Okay, let us know any other questions you want to talk about and we'll answer them. Bye.
Yay, bye.